Hi everybody, welcome to Facebook Live. Thanks for joining me. And for those of you who are new, I welcome you, and I just want to briefly explain the process of when we do Facebook Live. So I wanted to create a safe place for like-minded, spiritually evolving beings, which is you if you're tuned into this, to come together and talk about the things that are happening in the world from a spiritual perspective, but anything related to generalized universal questions around spirituality, mediumship, psychic abilities, intuition, and all of that. And so we encourage you to write in, send in questions, and then each week or each month that I do this, we'll get to your questions and hopefully answer. So for those of you who are returning, thank you for coming back, and thank you. We got awesome questions, and I hope we get through a lot of them, but why don't we start with the first one?
Yeah, so we'll start with Angelique, and she's asking if, do we have a spirit body after we die, or are we completely formless?
Okay, so when we die, our souls are pure light, and we do not have bodies. Although there are apparitions that can take on the form, it's kind of that ghostly outline. But from what Spirit has shared with me, you can turn your soul light into a form. So you could turn it into a body, and any body you want. So let's say in this lifetime you're American, Caucasian, and then in spirit, in a past life, you've been Asian, and you more identify with that. You can be male or female, old or young. And so really spirits come through and say all the time, they look like the form where they were happiest in their life. So if they were 25 and really strong, active, healthy, they're probably going to take on the apparition of that body. But some spirits simply remain pure light, and telepathically when we cross over, we're able to feel that soul's light and tune into what they looked like or who they were in a past life.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Carol wants to know, do our pets stay around us like our loved ones when they've passed on?
Yes, animals, there's animal heaven. I do believe animals are a very advanced level of consciousness because they're unconditional love. They don't have judgments and opinions, and they don't project negative energy onto anyone. They're pure loving beings that are sent to us, again, like angels, to be with us at certain chapters in our lives. And then when they cross over, they're still with us, and they come through readings all the time. Oftentimes, our furry friends are like our children. And so I had a group today, and of course, there were several dogs and cats that came through.
I love that.
So, the next question is from Kim, and she is asking about infertility, and she's asking if that's something that we do contract before we're born, or is it something else, and how can we kind of ease the heartache of something that's hard to accept like that?
Sure. Yeah, so this is probably more case by case, because there could be a few different reasons why one would go through infertility. What I have heard in readings is that a lot of times it is predestined because there's profound lessons. It's very humbling when you start to realize that you can't control. I mean, what a miracle the gift of conception of a baby is. But sometimes you go through the struggle to deepen your own spiritual growth and learn profound lessons, surrender, all of that. And then sometimes, it's forcing us to stop and realize, like, maybe on a soul level, we're not meant to bring children in, but on a mind level, that's what we want. So it's really surrendering the ego and the way we think our life should go, meaning we think we're supposed to have a child or children, really surrendering to the fact maybe that's not your soul's purpose in this lifetime. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Great. I just lost my question. So Jill wants to know, what happens to souls, so also kind of with like physical things, what happens to souls with diseases like advanced stages of Alzheimer's are they stuck in their bodies even though they can't speak and move? Or is the soul going back and forth? Like, can someone like you who's a medium connect with them? Like, all that stuff.
Yeah. This has come up often, actually, lately. So when the soul is unconscious, in a coma, Alzheimer's, not totally there, typically it's a long goodbye, and the soul is going in and out of the body before it actually fully transitions, which means death. And so it could be doing it for several reasons, but sometimes the long goodbye is not really for the soul, the person who's going through it. It's for the people around them. And it gives them a chance to learn lessons of showing up and having an opportunity to take care of them or say goodbye. And so it's going in and out because it doesn't need to stay in a heavy, dense, uncomfortable, unhealthy form and suffer. I've worked with people where I'll ask them, do you have a father named Bob? And he's coming through. And they're like, yes, I have a father named Bob, but he's alive. However, he has Alzheimer's. So I literally am tuning into the higher self of Bob, or the soul part of him that is, astral traveling and coming through the reading, even though his body's still alive. So yes, that does happen. And there's nothing wrong with it, I guess is what I want to say. That's when we go to sleep at night, a lot of times we all travel, we go in and out of our bodies. When we dream, we go to the astral plane or the higher heavens, and that's where you have those magical dreams or visitations. So it sounds really out there, but honestly, everybody has done it on multiple occasions.
Great. So Maureen is asking if spirit guides ever send other angels to assist us in certain situations.
Yes.
Can they work with other angels?
Yes, absolutely. So there's different orders in the spiritual realm of angels and guides. And if you aren't familiar, I have on my website a diagram that shows the different levels and where the team spirit comes together. So that might help if you check that out for a visual. But spirit guides are like teachers on assignment, and they're working with us on a particular lesson at a certain time in our life, okay? And then they may need the assistance of, the higher band of angels, because angels are God's messengers, and they're just pure love, and they're there to comfort us and protect us and guide us. And so a lot of times spirit guides will come through with a guardian angel, which is your own personal protection guardian throughout your lifetime, or just generic angels from one of the different orders, or archangels. And they're all unlimited. So it just depends what we're going through. When I walk into a space where I'm going to do work, like whether it's a small group or a large audience event, I call in tens of thousands, if not millions of angels. My teacher, Doreen Virtue, was the one who taught me that, because she was saying how it shifts the energy to a higher vibration of love, because angels really are God's energy. It's love, okay? So if you're ever feeling like you want to raise the vibe of a room, call in angels. And again, it can be generic. Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. So what this person wants to know, and again, I'm just losing my place today. Sorry, everybody.
Must be the full moon.
It was following up on this. It was connected. I'm going to find it. There we go. John wants to know, he has a question about shadow figures. So like when he's meditating and trying to connect, he sometimes glimpses a shadow figure. And he might see it move across the room, get a cold chill. And so his question is are these like what he's calling shadow figures, are they departed loved ones or spirit guides? Are they positive? Are they negative? How can he tell the difference between those things?
So what Spirit has told me is the shadowed figures are ghosts, and it's just another name for spirit, a departed loved one. It's not negative, okay? It sounds like it is, but again, it's what we were talking about earlier about apparitions. So they are not angels when they're shadowed figures. Angels are more sparks of light or flashes of light. Okay, and typically the angels and archangels and higher beings of light appear when I'm doing readings high up. The dead people, shadowed figures, we all see it differently, so I don't see shadowed figures, but it doesn't matter. You're seeing them in your way. But a lot of people do see these apparitions, and those are dead loved ones who can at times be spirit guides. Sometimes your dead people are your guides, and sometimes they're not, but they have to be properly trained by higher, like your guardian angel or higher part of your council, which it's a panel of your highest guides that assign certain, spirit guides to you to help you through a certain part of your life.
So this next question is a little bit related in terms of Karen wants to know, she's like asked for protection before doing some of her spiritual work and things like that, but she's wanting to know if like some of her experiences, like getting chills or seeing orbs and things like that, she wants to know how she can be certain that that protection is working for her so that it's not negative energy that's affecting her.
Right. Okay. So to be certain, I guess your feelings are going to be your gut check on whether or not it's working. So meaning so if you do your psychic protection and after you've done a day of readings or healing work, whatever it is you do you feel charged? Do you feel happy? Or do you feel irritable, covered, cranky, exhausted? And I mean, look, at the end of the day of doing a lot of work, you're going to feel tired. But there's a difference between feeling negative emotion with that and, not. And so if you're feeling any of the negative, it means either you're not doing it properly or you need to do more of it. So I'll give you an example. I was going through a period with my readings where I was just, at the end of the day, I was exhausted and felt covered. It's when you feel really irritated and you just want to say, get off. Like there's 1,000 people hanging on me. It's all dead people. So I worked with an energy healer and he told me that I needed, in between clients, I needed to reinforce, what he showed me was a disco ball of light. And he said, you can't just do it at the beginning of your day. He's like, you're going so high and deep into this energy, it's like wearing it down. So at the end of each session, reinforce it. And it shifted everything. I truly felt different at the end of my day. So what he told me was, you imagine yourself in a disco ball and with the light shining out, but there's mirrors all around it. And the mirrors serve to deflect the negative energies that tend to hang on to us or drain us. So that's one of, I'm sure, 100 different protection techniques that you could try.
Perfect.
I love that. Brian is wondering, can you describe the difference between like a religious kind of connection to spirit versus a general connection to spirit? Do we need religion to connect? Kind of that aspect of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From what Spirit has shown me, it's that quote, many paths, one truth. So meaning at the end of the day, we're all striving to reach that place of oneness. And that oneness is what you would call God or source, which really equates to love, which is the highest vibration there is. And so how you get there doesn't matter, so long as it's based in integrity and truth and love. So for some, religion is the way. For others, it's absolutely the opposite. It turns them off, and they would call them spiritual seekers. They're on a spiritual path. Spirit doesn't care how you get there, so long as you're authentic to what is your truth versus trying to fit into what maybe your parents have projected onto you should be your truth, right? So long as your intention is to reach that place of oneness, just go with what feels right.
Perfect. So David asked kind of about how spirit voice would be for if you're like clairaudient. So he's asking if it's like a departed loved one that's kind of communicating with you. Would it be in their voice? Would it be... Mm-hmm.
That's
like, how does that sound?
Such a good question. So, because this is how it began for me back when I was in college and going out of my mind, thinking I'm going crazy, because I'm hearing these voices, but they were not spirit voices. So when you hear spirit voices, they will be external, but internally is generally how clairaudience works, at least for me. And it's my own mind's voice. So the confusing piece is, how do you know if it's your mind making it up versus divine mind, meaning it's spirit, angels, or guides projecting divine guidance through clairaudience internally. And so it really does take a lot of practice to differentiate the two. Just know this: when you get that inner voice talking to you, it usually is, you can tell the difference because it's simple, it's kind of poetic, it's flowy, it comes from out of the blue. It's not like you're thinking and then you come up on something. It's just, it hits you. Another way spirit will do it is projecting like a song into your mind's voice, into your head. And you can hear the song. You're not really hearing the song, but you get what I'm saying? Or let's say you get off a phone call with a friend and you can still hear the conversation in your mind's voice, right? That's what it's like. That's the experience of it. But it comes from out of nowhere. Your mind is not creating it. It's just out of the blue impressions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So Danielle is asking, can our spouses or significant others and their energy in our daily lives, can that interfere or affect our ability to manifest and co-create our own reality?
Yes, because when you partner with someone, you take on their karma. And so while it may not be yours, your karma, your lessons, you are swimming around in the same vibration. And that's not a bad thing, but then you have to do a lot of work around shifting it. So that's why it's a partnership. You can help each other to learn the lessons and balance out the karma. I've done so many readings where it comes through that somebody's spouse, husband, has, let's say, major fear around money, and this person never has, but all of a sudden they're experiencing a lot of financial burdens and lack. And so spirit will say, hey, this is not yours. You didn't come in to learn money karma, your husband did. But so long as you're in partnership, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so that's where you're inspired to do, you only can do your own work and then hope your partner does their work. And from there, you can shift the karma. But I would just say in that case, be the light, be the example of what that looks like. And then hopefully you can shift the karma.
The next question is from Debbie, and she is asking if spirits ever have any regrets about their earth lives, or about the legacy that they've left when they've moved on.
Yes, all the time. So I think that's part of what's inspired me to keep doing the mediumship, because spirits come through all the time saying if only they would have known, or if only they would have believed, they would have lived their life differently. And learn from my mistakes. It's okay. They may be disappointed in the choices they made, the legacy they left behind, but then a lot of times what they do is they work with the living to balance that out by blessing their lives. So they can still neutralize it by doing good from the other side, by lining up miracles or blessings, answered prayers for their living loved ones. But I would just say, why be one of those and get over there and wake up and realize, like, you should have lived life differently. Let's just know that, learn from their mistakes, and yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So then Nancy asks, what does our connection look like if we have a departed loved one that we're still angry with or resentful of?
That's so funny, because I had a group today and that exact situation came up. So I want to illustrate this by sharing this. So this very outgoing, amazing, big energy husband came through, and he was saying he was sorry. He was owning his death. I said he had a heart attack and died, and he made choices that got him over there. I said, did he like margaritas? And she said, oh my God, that is ultimately what killed him. Because I guess they owned a chain of restaurants, and he was known for his margaritas. And he drank several a day when the doctor had said to him, you can only have one drink a week or you are going to kill yourself. And he said to his wife, I don't care. I like my margaritas and I'm going to drink. And if that means, I die early, then so be it. And she was always on his case, saying, take care of yourself. I want you here. We need you here. He didn't listen. So he came through today saying, you were right. And talk about, again, regrets. Wishing he would have chosen differently because he missed her and his kids. And he wished he were here. And he wished he would have honored the guidance she kept giving him to stop drinking. But anyways, so when it came time to ask questions, she said, I don't want to ask a question. I just want to say something. I am so angry at you. I'm so angry at him. And you didn't listen to me. And you should be here. And he was laughing and playfully saying, be angry at me, my love. You are my soulmate. I will be here when you work through that anger. He gave her tips. He's like, go to the beach house. Go meditate. Work through your anger. Kick and scream and do what you got to do. Get it out of your system. And then I'll still be here. So his love is eternal. It doesn't go away. He didn't care if she was angry. And so it made her feel better. I could tell. She's like, all right, I deserve to be angry. I get to be angry. And then when she passes through that, because anger only poisons us, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, for ourselves, the gift we can give ourselves is letting it go.
That's a productive response. So Leanne is asking about meditation, and she's saying that it's really hard for her to start kind of the visualization process of like white light. She's having a hard time explaining it, but basically, do you have any suggestions for visualizations during meditation that might help, and how to maybe turn off the brain?
Yeah, well, so if you're having a hard time visualizing, maybe that's not your way of doing it. Maybe clairvoyance is not your strong suit, and that's okay. I always tell people, if you can't visualize it, okay, feel it, okay? So I would suggest, instead of trying to force a visualization that doesn't come naturally, shift to the intention of feeling a lightness or a warmth, descending over you or into the crown of your head. So try it that way. However, if you're committed to trying to break through and do a visualization, something that's really worked for me when I'm having a hard time is I imagine a waterfall of like shiny iridescent light, and it's washing out my crown and my third eye. Because typically when you can't visualize, it's because your third eye is blocked. And so I imagine this light washing it, clearing it, and then I start seeing other visuals outside of the white light.
Yeah.
So we get this question often in Facebook Lives, but since we have new people, we wanted to bring it up again. So it's about signs, and like, how do you recommend shifting from getting signs externally, like license plates, angel numbers on clocks, all that kind of stuff, to being able to get more of those signs like from within?
Right, internally.
Internally.
Well, so I think the 101 of this is the external signs, but then as you evolve and you work that intuitive muscle and trust more and deepen your faith, so the internal is always there. That's number one. We are born with that internal compass, the GPS system, that helps us navigate, and the signs, I wouldn't call them signs, but it's more your intuitive guidance internally comes through your feelings, okay? So when you out of the blue feel overwhelmed and anxious, and then you get a phone call a few minutes later saying your mom just had a heart attack, you got the psychic memo before the universe could validate it, right? So you start to get in tune with how you feel, and you start to notice when it's out of the blue and it's either not yours or it's being impressed upon you by your higher self or higher guides. But that takes time, and that takes a lot of trust, because it also takes being in the present moment, because if you're distracted by the earth world, thought lost in your head about the past or worrying about the future, you miss it. So you have to be present to pick up on it and then being able to identify it. So I would just say continue to set your intention to be present and aware and develop it, and you will.
Great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, the next question comes from Becky, and she's asking if it's true that souls who have hurt us deeply in maybe past lives will continue to reincarnate with us in future lifetimes until we learn to forgive them. And if so, how do we learn to let go and kind of learn those lessons so that we can stop that pattern in reincarnation?
Yes, the answer is yes. That is what happens. Your soul continues to reincarnate with the soul group members to balance out unfinished business or negative karma, or even sometimes positive karma. But you're a co-creator. You're not a victim. You choose it in the afterlife when you set up your next life script. Okay, you sit with your counsel and you decide, okay, my father hurt me in this past incarnation. He abused me on every level. So we're going to reincarnate and we're going to have a role reversal. And he gets to experience being on the other end of it. And, or, you're there to go back in the same roles, but he has a redo. He has an opportunity to do it right, to be and do better. So you absolutely choose it. Was there another part to that question?
Kind of how do we learn those lessons so that we can stop repeating the pattern?
Just the awareness. The minute you learn something, you have that aha moment, and you stop reacting. You don't have an emotional charge, if that makes sense. You're just kind of neutral, and there's a wisdom that comes about or a peace that comes about. That's where you connect all the dots. That's when you can check that box and move on, and you won't have to go through that same lesson again.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question is, Susan was asking about using tools like a Ouija board or something like that. Do you have thoughts and guidance or anything on that?
Not only do I have thoughts, I have firsthand experience recently in my basement with that Ouija board. So let me just share this, and this will illustrate my point. I had a phone session with a healer about, 6 weeks ago. And he was clearing my house. And he said there were dark entities in my basement. And was somebody doing witchcraft or seances? And in particular, was there a Ouija board involved? And I said no. Well, little did I know, he was pretty convinced that's how the spirit dark entities got into my house. So I go home and I'm telling my 3 14-year-olds that are sitting there, and they start laughing because one of them had a few girlfriends over, I guess the weekend before, and they decided to do a seance where they lit candles and then got out one of my old Ouija boards and started playing with it. And then I guess Hadley, who's the 14-year-old, she wouldn't sleep down there, and she kept saying she felt so scared, and she kept mentioning it, but I didn't connect the dots why. And so anyways, he cleared it. He told me to pass on to all my teenagers no more, because Ouija boards, when used properly, they can be a tool. And the truth is, I had an angel board, which is the same thing. It just was kind of lighter and prettier. And you can use those, and they do work for certain people. However, you have to say protection prayers. You have to set the intention to only work with positive energy and call in source. Only those of love and light, right? God energy are allowed in this session or this space. But I would highly recommend just skip the board altogether because it's kind of a gimmicky game. And when you're doing this, you want to honor it. You want to respect the spirit world.